Welcome to Technomic's 5th webinar out of a series of 6. I would also like to acknowledge IFTA's support of this webinar series. And in addition, I've seen a few WFF members and just want to say thank you to your participation as well. Our topic today is about the state of the street in the independent restaurant. My name is Heidi Keithley. And I'll be leading today's review. If you have any questions, please be sure to email me at my Technomic address, hkeithley@technomic.com. So let's get started. Today's objectives, we're going to take a look at where independents and small chains fit within the restaurant industry. We're also going to take a review of what independents are doing right, what are making them successful. In addition, we'll talk about why independents may want to appeal to the different generations. And then we'll close by taking a look at what the future holds for the independent. And the future really does look strong. Lastly, we'll have an opportunity to have a one-on-one interview with one of our local Chicago independent operators to gain a first-hand appreciation on how they go about their business. But first, let's take a look at the market share. Small chains and independents are about $185 billion worth of sales, and they have over 308,000 units. As you can see, the breakdown of the top 500 chains for sales is close to 60%, and the small chains and independents are about 41%. If we're talking about small chains and independents, just a quick definition there. A small chain is typically around 4 to 9 units, and an independent operator is about 1 to 3 units. And for the purpose of our discussion today, we're combining and looking at that arena of the small chain and independent. So back to the numbers. When we look at that 41% of sales, that's broken down, as you can see, between full service and limited service. And within the world of the independent, we can see that primarily those sales are associated with full-service restaurants. And the same with units. You can see that there are far more units of independent restaurants, and most of those are broken down into FSR at 208,000 and limited service restaurants at over 100,000. So while consumers continue to improve financially, both from an income and a job creation perspective, we anticipate the industry will continue to improve as well. And with a more positive economic environment, there is a better climate for small business, and especially the independent restaurants. So what separates the independents from the rest of the pack? Well, we can start off by the fact that they really are in tune with the changing consumer preferences. They know their customers. They listen to them, they greet them, they change their menu based on daily input from their customer base. And they really try to avoid the temptation to overcomplicate the menu. Fads and trends reported by the industry are something they kind of keep at bay and try to look at things that they focus on specifically for their customers. They also have grassroots relationships with that connection to their community. They treat the customer like they're in their own home. They also provide the community with a variety and a flavor that makes the community different, exciting, and really unique. And they're very flexible and creative, allowing them to be very innovative, not only from a food and a menuing perspective, but about their operations and their atmosphere and everything that they have to entice that consumer to come into their location. They're also very good at leveraging technology or embracing social media. And overall, they're very good business managers. And when we talk about the independents and how they go about sourcing their product, we see that many more of them are shopping around. The primary distributor share is actually down. Through our surveys and our research, Technomic has identified that there's roughly about 11 to 12 distributors that independents are going to purchase their goods. So they are trying to find that best price. Now, looking at price, it is very important, and a lower price is very attractive but quality and taste are really paramount. And the greater use of clubs or cash and carry are certainly on the rise, especially with independents. And as more and more of these particular type of opportunities to purchase goods for the independent are coming up in the industry, we see independents really kind of moving more towards them. We haven't seen a lot of migration yet to GPOs. And also the less use of value-added products certainly resonates with the independent operator. They're all about scratch, making from scratch, and appealing once again to the consumer. And lastly, we haven't really seen a lift for distributor brands. They generally, the independent is looking at the national brands. So although they have a very strong relationship with their DSR and they place a high value on that relationship with their DSR, they're still very interested in the national brands. So what we've learned is that the behaviors and lessons learned from the recession have really created better buyers, probably in all of us. And the result? Independents are rebounding. They're doing very well, especially in the major metro areas. They're opening up units again, and these are primarily in those hot and new concepts like emerging chefs, or the new breed of multi-concept operators, or even the whole arena around fast casual. So really benefiting from a positive consumer sentiment. Now, as we talked about the independents rebounding, Technomic's long-term forecast, which is an outlook to 2019, really looks at growth. And the strongest growth is going to be among the small chains and independents. So with an industry outlook of around 1.8%, we see small chains and independents growing by over 2%. So over the next 5 years, we expect the independents to do even better than the chains. And as we take a look at the landscape of independents, and based on our research, we've identified 3 key segments or areas that they fall into. We'll see either independents at marginal or at risk, which is probably about 20%. These are independent restaurants that have their traffic has fallen off and not really recovered. They have marginal quality, inconsistent service, and they're just very stretched from a working capital perspective. Then there's those steady, solid, stable, independent restaurants that are out there. And that's really 60% of the independents that we see. They've been around for a while. They have community engagement. They're focused on their consumer and the loyalty with their consumer. They have a solid execution and a lot of daily specials as well. And then the last 20% of that independent share is really well positioned for growth. They're innovative. A lot of them are more in those urban metro areas. They use a lot of fresh and local ingredients, and they're meeting trends and consumer preferences as well. And when we look at the next 5 years, we really see those marginal independent restaurants continuing to slide down. We see steady staying just as that is, around that 60% mark, and we see the well-positioned independents continuing to grow. And what about their continued growth? The key attributes of these independents is really looking at they're driven largely by their passion and their risk-taking spirit as entrepreneurs. In the current conditions of our improved business environment really do encourage risk-taking. There's more access to capital. There's a resurgence of neighborhoods. There's a meaningful part of unit growth is going to be second, third locations for those successful single independent operators. And they're very innovative, trendsetters, as we've discussed. So today, successful operators are responding to consumer demands. They're focused menus with precision and high quality. They have indulgent and the luxury to LSR chefs are entering fast casual arenas. Authenticity is really critical. They're taking deep dive into the roots of a menu or a particular cuisine or style of cooking. And that locally sourced, as well as that community connection, are extremely important. And food trucks are even growing as another part of the market as eating occasions are expanding away from home. And of course, social media is huge. It's a huge enabler to all of this. And as we look at the consumer and those consumer likes and dislikes, I think it's important just to delve in just for a moment into those generational perspectives. We see what the share of the total adult population by generation. 25% for millennials, see 16% is Generation X, and 25% of boomers. And then you look at their spending power. And although the boomers are over there at $2 trillion, you can see the millennials at about $170 billion. And the thing to point out here, millennials use restaurants frequently and are starting to really enter their prime income years. So consumers will continue to watch spending, but restaurant dining is an ingrained behavior for the younger generations. So understanding the needs by generation is important for long-term success. And by looking at what's winning with millennials, they really identify with the trends and concepts and the customization. They want to be able to demand and get what they are expecting in their dining experience. And then looking at the baby boomers, it's all about healthy options. They do have a strong value with friendly and very attentive service, but they have a heavy interest in health claims. And their definition of healthy is different than younger generations. Then we'll take a quick look at some of the interesting trends that we've identified that's taken place with the independent menus currently. You see nuts more so on the menus. Nuts like walnuts and almonds and pecans and hazelnuts and cashews have more uses than to be just eaten out of the hand. These ingredients can also be made into milk, and they're also packed with lots of essential nutrients, whether it's protein or calcium or fiber. We also see weeds. Many varieties of garden weeds are edible, tasty, and packed with nutrients and antioxidants. And then down at the bottom we see trash fish. And this is a term for fish that fishermen generally discard because they have little or no commercial value. However, we're now seeing independent operators showcase various varieties of these lower food chain fish on the menus. And super seeds, the next superfood. Seeds like chia and hemp and pumpkin and sunflower all have very high nutritional powerhouse healthy attributes to them. And peppers, they're available from mild to very hot. And these peppers can show up in both sweet and savory applications. So take a look in those independent menus and see if you see any of these new trends popping up anywhere close to you. So with all this quick overview and all these different pieces of the puzzle coming together, we really see independents are positioned for the future. They are not downgrading their quality. As a matter of fact, quality is extremely important. So they're going to hold the line on pricing, and they're going to be looking for better sourcing as well. They're not afraid to re-engineer their menu and look for very innovative new ideas, as well as listening to that consumer. And they're embracing social media, and we see that all the time on how they're either marketing or listening to their consumer base. So today's successful operators are responding to consumer demands. It's about food, service, and relationships. So the outlook for the independents, they're expected to outperform chains. We also see another 4,000 to 6,000 net unit openings. A lot of that on the full service restaurant side, but LSR will certainly be a part of that as well. And we see a lot of that continuation of post-recession behavior, just smarter decision making. And there's a greater demand for price transparency and lower costs. So the independents are optimistic, and for the most part believe the recession has really intensified the competition, and they see consumers as even more demanding, allowing them to be leaner and meaner. So as we take this next few minutes, we're going to have an opportunity to interview an independent operator. Sandeep Malhotra joins us today, and Sandeep is one of our experts on the Technomic team here, but he's also an independent operator. And Sandeep owns Masala, which is a fast casual concept with 5 locations, 3 in the Chicagoland and 2 in the West Coast. His menu specialty is authentic Indian and really a focus on fresh ingredients. And it's designed for that quick service aspect, yet with those high quality ingredients. So with that, I would like to open up just a couple of questions of Sandeep, who's sitting here with me. And to start off, we talked a lot about consumers and how much they influence and how much the independent operator is listening to their consumers. How do you see, can you provide an example of how they influence your decision making?
Yes, hi Heidi. Absolutely. One of the most important things that we've done in the recent years as a straight reaction to consumer demand was actually changing our entire model. As we've discussed, we actually, my company used to actually own a full-service restaurant, and coming out of the recession, what we were seeing and listening to our customers, we saw a big demand shift for consumers wanting high-quality food, but in a quicker setting, healthy ingredients, fresh ingredients, and no compromise on taste, but doing so in a more better price point to provide that value. And to us, we listened to the consumer and in fact shifted our focus completely to a fast casual model, and that has allowed us to grow beyond one unit because at this point we're providing that price-value relationship. Another thing that I would say that we've learned from our customers in the recent years is actually trying to find a local element to the concept. Obviously, local trends is something that we all hear about in the media a lot, and it means different things to different operators. Not everybody can implement local as a complete basis of operation, but what we try to do is, at a local level, find at least one component of the menu that we can feature a local supplier or locally produced ingredient. So those are a couple of examples.
No, those are great examples. Thank you. So what key attribute stands out for you in the most when you're working with a distributor or a manufacturer? Because we know we have a lot of those folks joining us today.
Certainly. Well, in my experience, what I've learned is it's nothing too groundbreaking. What's worked for us is really the most important attribute is, of course, once you are talking with someone who shares the same values and is able to provide the products that you want, it comes down to business. It's an understanding the room that they have to play in terms of pricing and value. It's up to an operator to do the research and learn what the wheelhouse is, what the margins are. Those are things that are not readily accessible, so it takes a little bit of research. But I think that an operator will be best served if they understand what flexibility a manufacturer or distributor has on price, on options, on case sizes, on case minimums, etc. Because in the long term, a relationship that works is one that works both ways. And while distributors, especially in the recession time, may have made an exception or compromise a little bit on their margins or delivery minimums, etc., in the end, what works is something that is positive for both parties. And understanding where that middle ground is really the long-term success.
That's great. Thank you. Very helpful. So how important is it for you as an owner to be present in the restaurant?
Well, it's absolutely critical. It's always been important for us, for me personally, but I think as an independent operator and any operator who is, again, a small chain or independent, it is probably in the, looking at top 3 lists of what's important for success. I think that's number 1. It always has been. There are many reasons for it, apart from the fact that what sets independence apart from chains is that touch, is the personal touch. And the importance of that is something I've personally learned about. Guests want to see a familiar face. Mm-hmm. Of course, they expect price, quality, environment, service, etc., and all those things we know, but they expect to see a familiar face. Of course, it would be great to have the owner-operator there all times, but it can also be a key manager or a key employee. But being there is the only way to ensure you understand how customers are reacting to your food, how are they reacting to new things that you're trying, and that familiarity and personal touch is really, in the end, a very simple notion, but that's what independents thrive on.
Okay, thank you. Any last comments to share with everyone?
Well, one thing I will talk about is a little bit about, we talked about this earlier, was flexibility and creativity. And I think that, independents especially are, like we discussed earlier, and the theme of your message is that innovation, being able to try something new without the caveats of any corporate guidelines. And I think that's important, but one thing that I'd like to reinforce in that is that the spectrum of innovation that is allowed to us is really something that's set by the customer and your concept. And so this is something also we've learned. While again independents are looked upon for innovation, a lot of customers, especially your regulars, come to your restaurant for something that you do well, and they expect that continuity. So when you look at innovation or trying something new, it's always important to know the bounds that are acceptable to your customer, and truly innovating or trying something new in that spectrum, and really understanding that is, in the essence, understanding your customer.
So trends are important, but at the same time, really connecting with that local customer and what their preferences are really helps drive what's on the menu.
Right, and understanding why they come to you, and keeping that consistent.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Well, thank you so much for your time, Sandeep. And in respect of everybody's time, we're going to wind down. Here is our next upcoming webinar, which is on May 13th, and the topic is about the battle for share, supermarket prepared foods versus restaurants. And I'd also like to announce our new webinars that we have coming up. As you can see our list there of the next 5. We're going to be moving to a new monthly webinar schedule. It's going to start on the first Tuesday, and the time will be 10:30. So keep an eye out for more information to come on our next webinar series. And once again, the support and participation of IFTA is greatly appreciated. So my name is Heidi Keithley. If you have any questions, here's my email address. And if you have an extra minute or so, please take a moment to watch the following video, which is a tribute to the independent restaurants. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.